Welcome to the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Caldwell, and I'm so happy you're here. Each episode, I take some time to chat with fellow artists about life, faith, and the impact of the arts. Hey friends, happy August, and welcome to episode 69 of the Creative Impact Podcast. I'm so excited that you're joining us today, whether this is your first time listening or if you've been around for quite a while. Today's conversation was such a sweet time with my new friend, Hannah Requa. I loved getting to hear about Hannah's journey, and we seriously could have talked for so many more hours, so we'll have to have her back on the show sometime to dive a little deeper into some of the conversation topics that we just touched on today. To give you a little background about Hannah, she graduated from TCU, or Texas Christian University, and was a dance major there in their School for Classical and Contemporary Dance. She's trained at Hubbard Street Dance Chicago and performed with multiple professional dance companies, including Wild Goose Chase Dance, Bruce Wood Dance, Corpus Christi Ballet, and Waco Dance, among others. As you'll hear in our conversation today, Hannah has had a variety of teaching experiences, including being an adjunct faculty member at Baylor University. Hannah had what many would call sort of a non-traditional dance journey starting at the age of 14, and she shares today about what it looks like to really trust God's timing and the doors that He closes and opens along the journey. We talk quite a bit about what it looks like to dance professionally while being a mom and how that has influenced her perspective. Hannah and her husband Spencer currently live in Waco, Texas with their 2 children, and she is part of a group called Creative Waco, kind of brainstorming and thinking of ways to help bring more dance to the city. Thanks again for joining us today, and enjoy my conversation with Hannah Requa. Awesome. Well, Hannah, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. I'm so excited.
Yes. So first of all, I love that we got connected through Hannah Eckert. So trying to figure out, how did you guys first meet?
I met her through Maggie and Olive Mako when they started working on Sunshine Personified, which was about my best friend, Carrie. Carrie's mom, Melinda, told Maggie during her interview, "You've got to talk to Hannah," and gave her my contact. And so we met for the first time over Zoom as well, or something. I think it was Zoom.
Yeah.
And did the interview, and she's just so gracious and genuine. And she was like, "You guys are really important to each other. You need to be more involved in this production if you would like to be." And I said, sure. And at that point I was in like 4 months pregnant, 5 months pregnant.
Wow.
So she asked me to choreograph, which I happily did, very largely pregnant. And then they moved the show a couple weeks, and I was able to dance in it.
Oh, wow. That's
about
awesome.
2 months after I had my son Pierce. But it was just the best experience ever. And then meeting all of those people. The dance world is so small. And now that I know some Mako people, I feel like it's getting even smaller because the Belhaven circle is so tight, and the Adeum and all of that. So I'm like, wait a minute. I know you.
Exactly. It is.
So
it is like a little family. And then it just, it's so fun seeing all the connections and kind of the web that happens. So
yeah,
that's so cool.
So that's where I met Hannah for the first time. And she is just a breath of deep, calm, fresh air.
She is, so for sure.
Yeah, we just really connected, and I loved the time with them that week of Sunshine so much that Maggie just kept inviting me to things, and some things I could go to, and I performed with them another time, and other things I couldn't make, but she just always keeps me in the loop. And yeah,
I love that. Yeah. So shout out to Hannah and Maggie and all our Mako friends.
Go Mako, look them up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have time later to talk more about Sunshine Personified, because I would love to hear kind of more of that process. And it sounded like such a beautiful tribute. So looking forward to talking about that. But before we get there, I would love to have you just introduce yourself to whoever's listening. So just a little bit about kind of your background and what you're up to now.
Yeah. So I am originally from Colorado, but I've been in Texas for the most part. Let's see, when did I come here? Fall of 2007 is when I went to TCU and graduated in 2011. Then I moved to Chicago for about 2 years and then got married. And my husband was doing medical school in Fort Worth. So we moved back, and TCU's in Fort Worth. So we've been in Texas solidly since 2013.
Nice.
And just moving all about in Fort Worth. And then we lived in Corpus Christi for his residency. And now we live in Waco.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I've had really diverse dance experiences. It's been a really sweet journey. I started ballet really, quote unquote, late in life. I was 14 when I first really started training.
Yeah.
And had done the creative movement where you dance with scarves. We have pictures of me in a tutu and jeans and I just being crazy.
Awesome.
It was a combo ballet gymnastics thing. And then I played soccer for a long time, but found my way back to ballet and to dance and just decided I felt like I heard God say I was supposed to dance. And I told my parents, and they were wonderfully supportive and said, okay, and helped me figure it out. And
that's awesome.
Just to see, I hope I'm like that with my kids when I do something, because now knowing what I know about the ballet world or just dance in general, if my daughter did that, I'd be like, let's find something else.
Right.
But
I know it's pretty amazing. I was like, wow, that's actually very impressive to start at 14 and then to have gotten to the places that you've been and had the experiences you've had. So it's really super cool. You can tell it's, like you said, something that God called you into.
And the only thing that I will say, I worked really, really hard, but I had no business getting into TCU, and I did. And even when I was 18, I came out of that and I was like, I don't think I really danced during that audition. There was an angel standing in front of me the whole time. So they probably weren't seeing me, but he's just opened a lot of doors and he's shut a lot of doors. So just relying on his direction in all of life is really important. And it's been really hard for me because starting so late, I wanted it to be what I thought it was. And growing up in a ballet conservatory, or growing up, but my young years in a ballet conservatory, you see the dance magazine images everywhere. And I was like, well, that's what it means. If I'm going to be a ballerina, I'm going to be in a big company. I've got to do the thing.
Right.
I don't think that was a wrong desire, but it definitely, I made a very specific, if I can't ultimately get to this thing, I won't have made it in my mind, or it wouldn't have been worth it, which is not true. But I feel like it took me a long time to kind of release that idea that I had made for myself. And it wasn't a God-given dream. It was no, this is what I decided it was going to look like if I was successful at it.
Yeah.
So
it's really a good distinction. Yeah.
But a hard one.
Yes.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with that, but it just wasn't what God ultimately had for me. And what he has had is about something deeper. It's less about me. I think if I would have gone to a big company at any point in time, it would have been about me. And so I would have struggled so much more than I already do as a human with my pride and defining myself through dance only as my main source of fulfillment and identity, instead of really seeing God's purpose for me in dance is to love on people and to be creative. He is the creator and we get to share in that with him. And so just, it's so much more open and free. And it really is about what are you doing with and for God? And it becomes this little, oh my gosh, I'm going to say a horrible dance pun. It's like a little pas de deux with you and God.
I love it. And I'm just a big fan of puns. So this is great.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I'm full of them. I love that. Yes. Oh man. So it's just, I went through all those years I freelanced a lot in Chicago, and I was able to train at Hubbard Street through their Lucanti dance studio, which was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I was we were all weird in the scholarship program, just drooling as the company members walked by. I remember Meredith Diancolo.
Mm-hmm.
She's where I learned to wear socks for everything. And I was just I'd watch her walk by and be like, I love you. Oh, you're amazing. And being in that environment was so inspiring. And it was a hard place for me because I was like, oh, but they're right there. They're just in that next studio. So if I can only get there. And I was there to learn and soak up everything I could and meet people and, just really experience a different part of the dance world that is just as valid as the main stage productions. And I've had those experiences too with Bruce Wood. They are an incredible company. And I am so humbled to have them on my resume. It was just a really incredible time in my life.
What time were you there?
Let's see, 2014 to 2016.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. So it was really, Kimi Nakaido was the artistic director then, and Bruce had just passed away a little bit before I joined the company. So I didn't actually get to work with him, unfortunately, but just his legacy of the way he taught and how he choreographed, and the movement just felt like home to my body, which was really, really wonderful.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I love that you're a Texas girl now, sort of.
I so am. Oh, it's
awesome.
a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a hard thing though. My parents are like, wait a minute, we didn't sign up for this.
Exactly. Yeah. I grew up in Texas and we actually just visited Colorado like a month ago or so. And it was so beautiful. I'm like, oh, it's nice, like reprieve from the 100 and something degree temperatures here.
What is this summer? I quit.
Exactly. Exactly. But I do love that. And actually I auditioned at TCU as well and like almost went there, which is so funny.
Oh my gosh.
We might have like been there at the same time had I gone there. Cause you said you went in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have come in 2008, which is crazy, but ended up going to Belhaven. But so cool. It's just such a great program there too.
It is. Yeah,
for sure.
They do a really, really great job. Well-rounded performers. And we took teaching methods and pedagogy and choreography. So I feel like I came out with a lot of skills, not just learning how to dance more technically proficiently or with more artistry, but just able to be a different kind of thinker in the dance community.
Yeah, it's really amazing all the, I guess that, yeah, like you're saying, kind of the different elements of the education that you get in a dance program at a university level. So I think that's definitely a great opportunity that we both got to have in different ways, but I love it.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing kind of the overview of your background and kind of different places that you've been. Any other highlights that you want to talk about from your performance years or choreography, either one?
Yeah. I still dance for one of my former professors at TCU, Susan Douglas Roberts, has a project company called Wild Goose Chase Dance, which I love. Yeah. So that's another thing I love about TCU. I feel like and I'm sure it's the same everywhere, you just really bond with the faculty there. And she's remained one of my close mentors and now a friend. She comes and visits my kids and sends them presents, and she's Auntie Sue's, but I started dancing for her right after I moved back from Chicago, and we ended up going to France for the World Dance Alliance Global Summit Forum. And that whole experience of being in an international festival and experiencing dance in a different country was really astounding. Yeah. I just love how the language of dance and movement is kind of transcendental and just really, I didn't speak the same language as some of the teachers of the master classes, but you show and it's all the onomatopoeia type, la la da, wah, like they're just making all these sounds to help you embody the movement. And that was a really, really amazing experience to perform in France. And then just the most recent thing, I was part of Corpus Christi Ballet. And that was amazing on a lot of different levels. That was a ballet company. I got to do a lot of classic roles that I'd always dreamed of doing. And then it was when my daughter was small. So she came to the studio with me every day, which was so just really, it was really sweet.
Love it. Yeah. It's interesting I feel like ballet in particular is so not sure what the word is, like so specific and, continuing to train and point and things like that. So I'm just curious, did you consistently train and point all these years, or was it like you kind of had to get into that for Corpus Christi Ballet?
Both in different ways.
Cool.
Yeah. I taught at Texas Ballet Theater School when I lived in Fort Worth. And so I think I was always really inspired to keep my point shoes on at different moments and just keep that strength up for that. But then when you're pregnant and when you're postpartum, things change in your body. And I think I was about 4 months pregnant with my daughter when I stopped putting them on altogether. And then I think I put them on a few times after she was born. We moved to Corpus when she was 9 or 10 months old.
Okay.
And so the first big time I had put them back on since she was born, other than like doing releves in my kitchen, was at my audition for Corpus Ballet, which I do not recommend to anyone. Right. Don't do it. I survived. I think it's the first time you put them on, you're like, oh, okay, I know how to do it. And then the second time after the first time you put them back on for any length of time, you're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. So it took a lot after that initial time to get them back in any sort of form. But the directors there were gracious and kind of patient with me.
Yeah.
And great training, great classes. So, and then I made, you make good friends who are like, hey, so I used to do this to strengthen my feet. And it was another time of a lot of hard work, but yeah, I am embarrassed to say I just got a new pair of point shoes because I have to teach a lot of point this fall. And I was like, oh, it's been a little bit again since I put them on, but I just had another baby. So I'm giving myself a little bit of a break.
There's grace for sure.
Right. Yeah. So much.
That's so amazing though. I was just curious, kind of a ballet nerd question, but
you should. PSA to everyone, put them on. Just do like 32 releves every day.
Yeah.
To save yourself from that situation, because it was not ideal. I do not recommend.
Yes. So true. So true. But that's awesome. So I'm curious, while we're on the Corpus Christi Ballet thing, so you're talking about being a mom and like getting into dancing professionally while being a mom. That feels like kind of, it's probably happening more than I think it is, but it also, I can see how it would be challenging to juggle, So I don't know, would you want to share a little bit more about what that experience was like for you? And like you said, being able to bring her to the studio and for all of those things.
I'd love to. I do think it happens more than we're aware of, as opposed to, I think when we were young, it still felt like you either chose to dance or you chose to be a mom.
Right.
Like those, I didn't hear much about company members who also had children. And that's really, I feel like that's changing throughout the dance community.
That's good.
And we were just in a unique spot in Corpus with my husband being in residency, that his hours were just insane. And I could not count on him as a partner for childcare in any way. That was I call it my solo parenting time, which just killed both of us, because that's not at all what we wanted for a family. But Charlotte doesn't really remember that. So there's grace there for all of us. And the community, I found a great church, but the community I found was at the ballet, and all of these moms of the students in the school just went gaga over her all the time. And I had upper level students who would watch her when I taught, and it was so hard, but so good. I was so surprised that they even invited me to bring her to the studio, because they said, oh yeah, we'd love for you to join us. And I said, great. And I have a 10-month-old daughter, and we know no one. We have no family around.
Yeah.
And he's in residency. We can't pay for consistent daycare, childcare. And I didn't really want to anyway. So it felt like I was going to have to choose dance or being able to be home with her.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to. And that was just such a gift. And so hard though to wear dancer hat and mom hat, as they were constantly fighting each other. And she learned, it took a long time, but she learned kind of the flow of class and not to walk around when we were in the center. And by the end of my 3 years there, she would wait in the corner until we all went, and she'd prepare and be ready to go just do whatever she wanted to do that she thought looked like what we had just done across the floor. And they would wait for her, which was just really, really sweet. So I think she got an experience that not many kids do. And to be in the costume, she'd go wander in the costume closet with our costume designer and the pink tutu. She'd always come back, Mom, there's 7, or I only found 4,
Aww,
so it was it was a magical. I look at her, I'm like, you don't even know what you have.
Yes, that does seem like kind of a magical place to hang out and to get to grow up.
Oh, Tool and all these things.
Yes.
So it was, just so sweet to share with her and for her to see me in that capacity doing something I had always dreamed of doing. Yes. And it was really hard on some days to have her in there, because then, my greater calling is to be a mom right now, especially to small children. And that sometimes meant I had to step out of the studio, or I couldn't finish class, or she had a fit and we needed to, talk about what she was feeling, and all good things, just all hard things to keep reminding myself, nope, this is not, my identity is not in my job. It is not in what I want to do. It is what God is giving me to do. And so, yes, I can be fulfilled through dance, but look at this tiny human that he's given me to teach and shepherd and show all facets of the world. And she takes precedence over my releves.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. I'm sure that would be challenging, but also that sounds like a really beautiful shift in a way too. Like you said, kind of that sense of identity and purpose and things like that. So
yes,
I think you mentioned in kind of like the prep stuff that we sent back and forth that it wasn't necessarily like what you were thinking as far as timing for starting your family and stuff like that.
Yes, that's another beautiful little God moment.
Yeah.
So when my husband and I got married, I think prior to us getting married, when we were engaged, we thought we'd have kids. And then we got married and we're like, maybe, but maybe not. Like, would we be okay? And then when I got the job at Brucewood, I loved it so much. I was like, no, this is what I want. Let's just keep doing this. And I had even started thinking like, okay, when he goes to residency, if he does not get placed near DFW, even though that's what we want, I might stay. And like he would go to residency, we'd see each other, but I might stay and do this, because I felt like I was living in an answered prayer, because I just prayed for a full-time company, and then just to feel that. And I was like, why would you take it away in that way, God? Yeah, like, I'll just stay. Like, I feel like we could make it work. We could totally make it work. Bad idea. Once again, they work for some people, but it would not have been wise at all. And so I think we were not trying at all, actively preventing. And Charlotte is our miracle. And she just was and is just a beautiful reminder of God's provision of protecting our family and our priorities, and would not let me continue being fulfilled only by dance and being prideful and choosing what I wanted and not submitting to what God had, because it has turned out so much greater than what I wanted.
Yeah.
So
that's so beautiful.
Yeah. We're very similar, so we butt heads a lot, but I remind myself every day, like, you are God's reminder to me. Okay. Yes, you are. I love you.
That's so sweet. And thanks for sharing, because I know that probably is where I would imagine a lot of people find themselves in kind of a situation of like, this was not the timing I was thinking, or like my plan, and just surrendering to God's timing, and recognizing his goodness in it is so encouraging,
And it took me a long time, because I'm stubborn, and I was just like, I love that she is here. I'm just so confused on the timing. And that has been another opportunity of growth for me, just really seeking the Lord and being like, can I trust you? Like, can I trust that this was a good thing for you to give us then? And it's been answered over and over again. And, you know, I'm just part of Israel. He has to literally show me everything every day. Like, yes, receive this. And so it's one of my favorite parts of our story. It was a hard part for a long time, but it's one of the sweetest parts now.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's a great analogy. But we're all just, needing those daily reminders.
Yes, always.
For sure. So now you have 2 kids, right? So you have a son as well. So how old is he again?
He's 14 months.
Okay. Oh, so fun.
Yay. And they're so different, which is so wonderful. But he is also kind of growing up as a studio babe, just more with me teaching.
Gotcha. Cool.
I was teaching at Baylor University when he came along, when I was pregnant, and then the first semester after he was born. And so he's taken many a nap in a dance studio. And whenever we go, I pull out those blue gymnastics mats. And so we just started a mommy and me class that I'm teaching this summer. And I got the mat out and he thought it was his. He just like crawled on it, sat in the middle and was smiling at everybody like, this is my mat. And then had a hard time with taking turns, which is part of the wonderful dance etiquette we get to learn.
I guess that's a good lesson to learn.
It is,
but it's hard.
He was very frustrated. He was like, I don't understand because when we're here, this is mine.
Right. Oh, that's so precious.
Yeah.
It is sweet seeing different personalities, and like how, so when they're even so little that you can see the different personalities. So
yes.
So fun.
Yes. It's wonderful.
And temperament and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So did you want to share any other ways that I guess just like motherhood has shaped your perspective on career, art, whatever direction you want to take it?
Yeah. I think it constantly shifts just with things that happen. I mean, the pandemic happened before we left Corpus, and I was starting to get the mindset of, well, I could be done. Maybe, because I've had this time with Corpus Ballet and we were doing Sleeping Beauty and I was so excited to do that. And then the pandemic happened and I didn't get to close. None of us got to close chapters in 2020 the way that we wanted to. And so that made me think, no, I'm not done yet. And Maggie, once again, bring it, shout out Maggie, is so intentional about bringing people into community. And she is a mother. And I think we've just really connected on how do we support and encourage other dancing moms, especially, to keep doing it. And how do we make that feasible for them as much as we can, even if it is just encouraging, like, no, this is worth it. This feeds your soul in a way that not much else can, even if it's just going to take, sometimes that's all I need is just to go do class by myself in a studio. And that is still really important. But I think all of it has taken a back seat in a really good way to being a mom and to just investing in these little lovely lives that I've been blessed with. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's the most, I thought being married was going to be the most sanctifying thing I ever did. And then I was like, oh no, wait, let's add to that. Let's be a parent and just see yourself. And honestly, some of the things I like least about myself, I see in my daughter, and how I'm not very gentle with myself, but you have to be. Well, you don't have to be, but I would like to be with my daughter. And so it's just one of those, another opportunity of learning and growing. And there are seasons for everything too. Like when Pierce was really small last year, I taught too much in the fall. And so I lessened it in the spring. And there were days that I thought I was going to beat my head against a wall because I was like, I just want to go outside or like go to the studio and feel like I'm doing something to promote art and just dance. And I feel like all I am is a mom. And I think what's important about that is not to be swayed by temper temperamental. I'm temperamental, temporary feelings of that, because they do change. And I've too often like, oh, well, this is how I feel, so this must be true. And that's not true, not biblical. Our feelings are not true. So to just really rely on God's strength in those moments of, this is where he has me right now. And it's holding this crying baby. and that's enough. And I can sway with him and feel our weight together and feel his heartbeat and my heartbeat. And that's a dance of its own. And just,
ooh, that's so beautiful. I've never thought about that. That's so cool. Yeah.
I love dancing pregnant too. Cause I was like, I have one pun. That's all. I'm a one trick pony. It was another part of it. I was like, I'm not dancing by myself anymore.
No.
It was changes everything. And it's really uncomfortable, but it was just really wonderful to be like, oh, we're dancing together.
Aww,
and then it,
sweet.
Just grows from there, and feeling that deep connection to them, to share that. I don't care if either of them dance. I just want them to love movement and appreciate the dance world.
I think that's good perspective.
Yeah. Just to share that with them. And then God brings different things into your life. He has in mine in the spring, when I was having strings of those days of like, okay, I love my children deeply, and I just don't feel like myself. And I don't feel like I'm doing anything to progress my career. And am I even going to have a career anymore? And Waco doesn't have a thriving dance scene. So it really does feel like an uphill battle a lot of the time. And, or if I'm more positive, it's so many opportunities that have yet to be discovered.
Yes. It's such good perspective. And I think that's a really good segue too into kind of what you're currently doing in Waco. So when did y'all move to Waco?
In June of 2020.
Okay. So just after kind of pandemic started and everything.
Yeah, which was just a fascinating time to move in every possible arena of life. Yeah. But I got a job at Baylor that fall. And so I was teaching, which was wonderful, teaching there and teaching at a local studio. And
were y'all virtual at the time?
No, thankfully. I think I had to do 2 virtual class times the whole semester, just
that's not too bad.
Whatever. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Good. We were masked, and we did have to try to maintain a 6-foot distance, which is easier in ballet than I was teaching a social dance class as well. And most of social dance is feeling weight shifts of people. And so we use like pool noodles and these just ridiculous things to try and like, you're dancing with another human. It was, anyway, that was a very interesting time. But I took a break from Baylor. It was a great place. And I think I'll go back. I really enjoy teaching college age people, but it just became too much with 2. And I needed to I am normally like a nose to grindstone. You commit, you make it happen. You just stay for a really long time. And at different points, this was a much healthier choice to be like, no, what is more important is my children and my sanity. Yeah. And
that is important too.
Don't have to work that hard. Yeah. So that's been good to have a little bit of a break from that. And it's opened up other opportunities to talk to a lot of people about arts and dance in Waco. There's a group called Creative Waco that I got plugged into, and they are gallery owners, artists, visual artists, some musicians, filmmakers.
Whoa.
A lot of theater companies are in Waco, which is
neat.
Interesting.
Yeah, that really is interesting.
Great community theater. And I would love to find a way. I'm in a brainstorming phase of a lot of this, how to bring professional level concert dance to Waco. And the Nutcracker comes every other year. And why can't we do a local Nutcracker? So I'm it's a lot of brainstorm that's happening right now, because there again with 2 kids, the hours of daylight I get to work on much of anything is minimal.
Yes. Trying to fit it in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think with the way Waco is growing right now, I think people are ready for more arts, and COVID, hopefully will go away.
Yes.
Or just become less of a thing as more time passes. And so I think going to see live art is happening a lot right now, but I think it'll just continue to increase.
Right. I hope so too. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's so funny. I've enjoyed getting to visit Waco a few different times, and of course with, Magnolia and Chip and Jo.
They've done so much. I think people come for that and find other little gems that it's just kind of an entrepreneurial town and a lot of locally owned things, which I love.
Yeah. It's fun to explore and see kind of all what's going on there. Stuff like that. My husband always jokes that I'm like, Waco's pretty much on the way everywhere, right? So we could stop and go to Magnolia and then go. He's like, Waco is not on the way to Galveston.
That'd be a long loop.
A long detour for sure. No, it's fine.
Well, next time you're here, let me know.
Nice. That would be so awesome. And the Baylor campus is beautiful, and, getting to hang out there, and there's like fun coffee shops and things. And that's awesome. Sorry. Waco side note, but it does seem like it's growing a lot and doing like a bunch of construction and stuff like that. So
everywhere.
Yeah. That's exciting to have the possibilities, like you said. Like there's so many possibilities, and to see what's going to come out of this next season. 254
Dance Fest used to happen, I think it was in October every year. And I actually performed in it a few times in college, and a friend of mine here used to run it. And she, when we moved, was like, here, have it. I was like, thanks. It's COVID. And so it hasn't happened yet. I'm trying to get it off the ground for fall of 2023 or spring of 2024. So anyone who wants to, stay tuned for that, see if that can happen. Because that brings more dance to Waco. And that's just a good way. And it gives other local dance companies in Texas, and hopefully outside of Texas, but definitely within it, to come and just experience a festival and performing in a different setting. And so I'm hopeful that happens.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That would be cool to be able to bring that back and keep it going, and maybe grow, in new ways as well. So so exciting. So I'm curious, from your teaching experience, how do you feel like it's different between like maybe a dance studio versus at the university level as a teacher?
Very, very different. Yeah. And it just mostly has to do with the age of the student. You can do a lot more, or talk about things in a lot deeper ways with college kids. They have more concepts of their body and experiences. And so I feel like you can dive into the material a little bit differently with them than you can a 5-year-old. You're just trying to help that 5-year-old fall in love with movement in general and give them good ballet technique if you're teaching ballet or whatever it is you're teaching. But at the college level and older high school, it really just, you get to help them discover artistry and push them to grow more. I really love that older teenage into college age, because you can just ask for a lot more and learn and grow with them. I learn from all of the age groups that I'm able to teach, but I'm really challenged to keep things interesting and accessible for the older groups. And I really, that's a big difference. And then you don't have to do a recital or anything like that at college. You do give exams. So that's a little bit different. And they learned variations, which was so fun. But you don't have to. The recital I get to be a part of here is a well-oiled machine. The woman who owns the studio, she does it very well.
Nice.
It's not one of my favorite things to choreograph for. It's really hard for me to make recital dances because I'm always like, but I just want to make a dance piece. Like, I don't want to make a recital piece. So they seem different in my mind. So I struggle.
Yeah.
Everyone else at the studio, they're like, that's such a good dance. Good job. I'm like, mine. But you don't have to do those kinds of things. Yeah, it just feels like I use different parts of my brain depending on what age group I get to interact with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do you find that having started a little bit later, quote unquote, like for the dance world, that kind of informs your teaching in a different way than maybe people that started when, they were like 3 years old or something like that?
I think so. I didn't have those experiences as a really young dancer. And so I actually, even though I began so much later, I find it difficult to teach beginning level things.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because I hopped right into a class. I was with 11 and 12-year-olds as a 14 and 15-year-old, but it was like sink or swim. And I just worked so hard. I made the shapes. I didn't really understand it until I got to college, but so I don't really feel like I'm great at teaching a beginning level and like a slow registered class. That's something that I work on constantly, and that has been a struggle, but I could teach an intermediate advanced class with my eyes closed. Because that's just, I'm like, well, yeah. And if I don't have to explain everything, we can move faster. And so I do, I feel like it informs a lot of it.
Yeah. It's so interesting that I think in college, that was something I realized too, was the amount of intentionality that really goes into a beginner class, because it is so much new information for people and for the little kids too. So I was pretty blown away with just the level of like preparation and like detail and all of that. So
it's something I have to make myself work hard on.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. So we kind of jumped past like a lot of the early years and stuff like that. But I know it's challenging the dance world with the competitive nature of things, and like comparison can be a huge struggle, probably for a majority of dancers. But did you want to share just a little bit about your journey with comparison and how you've grown through that, I guess, over the years?
Yeah, I think really where I noticed it for the first time was that first class that I took when I was 14, and the other girls in my class were like 11 or 12, because our bodies were very different in a lot of ways. And I mean, I'd been an athlete for most of my childhood, so my muscle shape was different, much less talk about like having a more womanly body than an 11-year-old at that time. And so the shapes that they were making looked like the classical ballet shapes that I would see in photos, or ask my mom to go to the library, and I would get like the ballet textbooks or, the dictionaries and stuff just to know what my teacher was talking about. And that is where the comparison, I think, started, and just really not nice mental self-talk of not being good enough, having started too late. And I'm actually kind of surprised I had the tenacity to stay with it because it was so challenging. And I didn't have a very healthy mental relationship with myself. And then, the further up you would get, I was still being cast with younger kids for a while. And I think it just became something that I always wanted to prove, but I can do it. And I don't want to look like I started so late, but it almost became like, but if I'm not good at something, I can say it's because I started late. And so it was this weird relationship with the comparison of, if they notice I'm not as good as that person, I guess I could tell them that I haven't been doing this very long, but that sounds like an excuse. So maybe I won't. I don't know. And it just really, I think it just permeated a lot of different environments for me outside of the studio as well. And, led to some really hard body things, some eating disorder stuff. And, which unfortunately has been, I don't know how prevalent it is really anymore, but it was kind of when I was still going through stuff and not really knowing how to talk about that, since ballet was so new to me. I wasn't sure if that was what was expected or just normal, and I just had to get through it, or if hindsight, I wish I had been like, hey, I don't feel great about this, but I don't want to stop. But I just feel like I'm not good enough. And it's because I'm staring in the mirror and wearing really turned tights all the time. And I'm around bodies who have been doing this for a lot longer. And so that's, now I can see, and it's not about the body that you have. It really isn't. At the time, I didn't know that. And what I had to use was my body, and that I didn't know. It didn't matter. Like now it really doesn't, the body shapes I see on stage or in my classroom, it doesn't matter. It's just how people move and embody different things that is what is so exciting and beautiful to me. And I hope that gives me a little bit more grace for me as bodies change, being pregnant and postpartum.
Yes.
And then just with career stuff too, comparing roles that we would get in college was hard. Like just trying to find that contentment with, no, this is what God has for you now. And by the time the show would come around, even in college, I'd be like, oh, that's why I was supposed to be in this piece. Like maybe not for the dance, but that moment then that I got to experience with another person in the studio, that's what he had. And my mom was always so good about reminding me, like, he knows what you need to be in. Like just, you just dance and let him worry about the details of it. And I wish I had remembered that more deeply at times.
Yeah, that's such a good reminder, you know?
Yeah, it really, and just makes it simple. Like you just dance. You just dance. You can't control the outcome, but God knows what is good for you. And you just need to trust.
I think that's a struggle that whether people are in dance or not, but you know, that people are dealing with is that comparison and, you know, struggling with understanding. We want to know why, you know, different things happen or why we're cast in a certain role or why, you know, those things. But I love that encouragement of just like, God knows, and he knows where you need to be in each season. So yeah. Thank you for sharing your experience with that. And it's one of those things where I feel like, you know, it'd be so cool to spend so much time on like all these different areas. I may need to have you back.
Happily
to talk about different things and more in depth. But but as we're kind of wrapping up, is there something that you feel like you have on your heart that you'd like to share with other artists that are listening right now?
I think it just kind of everything tied together there of God is just so good. And just dance and let him take care of the details, but trusting the path that you have and the art that you create. It's valid and worthy, and just experiment and really trust the process, but trust yourself in that of choosing things that you know, or maybe that you don't know are going to be good for you, but your path shouldn't look like anybody else's because there's only one of you as yourself and as an artist. And so if you don't really give to that and trust that will happen, we're missing out of what could be shared. And I think the more I try and encourage myself with that, the more freedom I have. I'm doing a musical right now. I mean, that's so weird.
That's so cool.
And it's just so out of my box, but I love it. I'm like, yeah, this is great because it is just another one of those, feels like a sweet little gift from God of a nod of, you needed this. You needed to be in a creative process. And it doesn't look like I'm the only mom. I'm the only older person in this musical. And so it's just, I had to trust though. And it's not, my path looks nothing like any of my other friends from college who've continued to dance, and that's okay. And it didn't used to feel okay when I was younger, but it is okay. And the life you create is about so much more than just those isolated moments.
Yeah. He's working it all together.
All together.
Yeah. That's so good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I love to ask everyone, what is one of your favorite things right now?
Ooh. Oh, honestly, it's hearing my kids laugh together. Yes. It's my favorite thing. It makes me laugh. It makes me happy. It's hysterical. Charlotte is about like 4.5, almost 5 years older than Pierce, and best big sister ever. And he since day one that he recognized someone other than mom existed, has just been obsessed with her. And so when she makes him laugh on purpose, and his laugh is the cutest thing ever. So when they start that together, it just, makes me melt inside. It's just so fun.
That's amazing. I love that answer. So sweet. Yes. Well, I would love to let people know kind of where they can connect with you if you'd like to share, social media or something, whatever is a good place for people to get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm on the Facebook. I don't use it that much. And on the gram, I think if you just search my name, I don't honestly think I'm that hard to find, Hannah Requa. And yeah, I'm trying to be on there just a little bit more on my own, just as like an artist, and protect our family time a little bit more. So you'll see a few kid pictures, but mostly it's just me. And then, yeah, I don't have a website yet. I'm not that cool.
Okay. That's all right. Maybe at some point that would be really fun.
Maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm sure hopefully people get to connect in and kind of see what you're up to and things like that. So that's so fun. And what's the musical you're in right now, if you want to share?
Godspell.
Okay. And when is the performance happening?
It opens August 24th.
Oh, cool. So it's coming up pretty soon.
It is, yeah.
I can't believe we're like at the end of July right now. And
oh my gosh,
this will probably go live like mid-August or early to mid-August. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, really then exciting. Shout out, come see Godspell in Waco.
Yes, that'd be so fun. But yeah, I love it. And you are just so much fun to get to hang out with. And I wish we could spend like so much time together. So if you're ever in Houston or up in the Waco area, we'll have to connect. Please. That would be so fun.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Well, you are awesome. And thanks for just sharing your heart and your story with us today.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me space. I really appreciate it.
Wow, you guys, I'm sure you could probably feel this as you were listening, but Hannah is just such a genuine and beautiful person, and I loved getting to know her better through this conversation. I hope that you were encouraged today as well, and I invite you to reach out to Hannah on social media and thank her for being on the show today. You can find Hannah's full bio, all the links we mentioned today, and additional resources on our website, creativeimpactpodcast.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, I invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as to rate and review the show wherever you happen to be listening. And something that's a huge encouragement and really makes me excited about continuing to develop the show and bring more and more episodes is our Patreon community. If you are interested in supporting the podcast, you can check out creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. That's creativeimpactpodcast.com/Patreon. And there you'll see that there's bonus content that you can gain access to by becoming a patron of the show. Thank you so much for listening to the Creative Impact Podcast. The music for the show was produced by Michael Cash. I invite you to share this show with a friend, and until next time, remember that you were designed to create, you were made to inspire. Continue living with purpose and making an impact. See you next time, friends.